Hey e-commerce marketing podcast listener, I wanted to let you know that we have created the 6-month guide to marketing your e-commerce store. You can download this guide by visiting getosi.com/guide or by texting getosi to 33444. This guide will show you how to get more traffic, sales, and conversions for your online store. Get the guide right now by visiting getosi.com/guide or by texting getosi to 33444. Welcome to the e-commerce marketing podcast. Today's guest is Stacey Hubbard, and Stacey is an authority e-commerce marketing strategist, and she's the founder of Brazen Profit Lab, where she teaches new online store owners how to get more traffic, visibility, and sales using the power of content. She's also the founder of Apothecary 7, a holistic wellness website and lifestyle brand for women in business. Welcome to the podcast, Stacey. How's it going?
I'm great, Robert. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Where are you located?
I'm actually located in Berlin, currently, Berlin in Germany, but as you can probably tell from my accent, I'm originally from the United Kingdom, from London.
Okay, so Brazen Profit Lab has taken you to Berlin. Are you at some conference?
I'll give you the condensed version of that. I basically went on a location-independent business journey from around 2010, 2011, and that's taken me to several continents and countries, but I've been in Berlin for the last 2 years.
So let's get into authority e-commerce marketing. So what's authority e-commerce marketing?
Okay, so let's, again, in a nutshell, authority e-commerce marketing is where you're approaching your brand and your business not just from the point of, the sale, but you're taking a couple of steps back and looking at your customers' buyer journey and looking at how you can create different touch points, different pieces of content that speak to your buyer wherever they are, whether they're, just aware that they've got a problem, whether they need education, information, whether they're price shopping or want advice about what's in your product. So you are basically positioning your brand as an authority on that topic within your niche rather than just plugging your product in at the end.
Okay, so this way you just want to, I guess the eventual goal is to build trust from the customers, and then it's going to be easy to convert them.
Correct. The main emphasis behind authority e-commerce is that buying with you, by the time you've had those touch points with your customer, buying with you is the most logical, sensible thing for them to do. You don't have to push the sale. It's the natural next step.
Okay. And how can e-commerce businesses use authority marketing to sell more and get more customers?
Okay, well, one thing it's really important to be kind of clear on is that it's not I always call it the Pop-Tart approach. It's not something that you start today and tomorrow, everyone thinks you're the authority in your niche and you're making millions of dollars of sales. It really is the long-term approach, and how even small one-man band business owners, the way you start with authority e-commerce is getting really, really clear about who your ideal customer is, what problem your product solves, and how you can explain the not just the benefits of your product or the features, but all of the different aspects of that your customer is going to be looking at for your products step by step in a very logical way, so that by the time they are making the purchase, they feel like they're making a really educated and informed decision. And this really kind of for some people, it can be a difficult challenge because they just want to just dive straight in for the sale. But it's about creating these content assets that answer the key questions that your customer has. And it does take a little bit of time, which is why a lot of people don't do it.
Okay. And so I guess, it's good that you made that clear. This is not a strategy that you're going to start today and then tomorrow you're going to start noticing a lot of traffic and
instant
sales.
Result. Yeah, 100%.
Okay, so since it's a long-term play, what are things people can be doing right now? I guess, what's the action plan that e-commerce businesses need to be creating for themselves to become an authority in their space?
Okay, so number one is getting very, very clear on who the ideal customer is. And I know we hear so much about ideal customer avatars and ideal, customer personas and customer profiles, etc., that we can kind of start, yawning at them and throw that out the window. But one of the biggest things that I see with clients when we sit down and start looking at their content strategy is that it's impossible to plan a content strategy if you don't know who the content is for. So that is number one point, is take a step back, get clear on who that customer is, and then start looking at what questions are they going to be having prior to the sale. Let me use Apothecary 7 as an example. So in terms of what we sell, it's a Ayurvedic skincare line. I know that our customers are going to be interested in the ingredients, like what is besan, what is rose petal powder, how can it be used, what are the benefits, how else can I use it? You don't necessarily come at your customer with, here's our product, buy it. You start looking at what are all the questions that they have around it and start thinking about what pieces of content can you create that answer those questions.
Okay. And are there specific tools that you can use to find out these answers?
Can you repeat the question?
So are there tools that e-commerce businesses can use to figure out who their ideal customer is and then find out what questions their customers are asking?
Yes, definitely. Where I would tell them to start is, obviously, if you're brand new and you don't have any customers, like this is your first foray, one of the places I would definitely start is in Facebook groups, on forums. Go and find out where your ideal customers are hanging out. And sometimes you don't even need to ask any questions. You just need to listen. What is being discussed about in those forums, in the comments? Amazon's a great place. Go and look at the comments of products that are already being sold. What are people complaining about? What are they saying that they wish it did more of or less of or worked better in a specific way? What you're understanding at that point is A, who the customer is, and B, what their challenges are. Does that make sense?
Yes, yeah.
So that's an initial place to start. Something else I absolutely love is, I'm not sure if you're aware of it, it's a tool called Uber Suggest, and it lets you, and this comes into more with SEO and actually coming up with the right keywords to target your content for, but it lets you type in questions such as how to or why or how many, and it will pull up all of the different search strings that your ideal customer will be typing into Google. So you don't have to kind of make up what the questions are or make up what they're searching for. You'll find search actually tells you what your customers' problems are and gives you an indicator of what type of content you need to create to help them. So Uber Suggest is great. Amazon's great. There's another tool that I'm really loving. I might say it wrong. I think it's Answer Questions, or I'll send it over to you because I don't want to say the wrong word, but it's like Answer Questions. And basically it's a similar tool to Uber Suggest. And it basically is like a repository of questions that people are asking so that you've got all that information right in front of you. So that's where I would start if I had never had a customer before. But if you've already got existing customers, the first place you go is go to speak to your customers, people who've already purchased with you, who've already invested in your brand, in your business, who you've already started a relationship with, and you start asking them, how can you serve them? What questions do they have? How can you help them get more value out of your product, out of your tool? Because people like to be asked for their opinion. And in my experience, I found that when you ask, they're very forthcoming and they will give you all the information that you need.
Okay, so once you've gathered that information, you'll start creating content to start answering those questions. But by you just creating that content and maybe publishing it as a blog post on your website, that doesn't mean that people are going to be able to find it. You have to do some promotion. So how do businesses now promote that content to make sure that their customers find it?
Okay, so I'm going to give a very specific let's give a specific example. So let's say you are writing a post on the health benefits of rose petal powder because that's what's in your product. So the first thing I would do is go, if you're going to write a piece of long form search engine optimized content, you and I both know it, it's not done overnight. It takes quite a lot of time to do something really quality, to write it, to research it, to edit it, to get the pictures. And you really want to make sure you get as much bang for your buck from each piece of content that you create. So before you start start thinking about promoting that content, which is, the one of the most difficult but most powerful parts of authority e-commerce, you want to look at how you can take that big piece of content and break it down into what I call micro content. So an example would be maybe you write a 2,500 word blog post, like an essential guide, a very meaty piece of content. You can then take that content and repurpose the key points into video. So now you've got video for your blog post, you've got video for your YouTube channel, you've got video for Instagram, you've got video for your Facebook page. So you've got another form of media for that particular piece of content, because people like to get their information in different ways. Next, you can take that same video, that same blog post, and go, right, how are we going to promote this on our different platforms, and start thinking visually? Do you have a Pinterest pin for it? Do you have different graphics for when you want to promote it on Facebook? Do you want to promote your content on Instagram? And you start coming up with all these different assets that are all related to the same piece of content. So at that point, you're like, I've got blog posts, we've got 3 videos, we've got several images for Facebook, several images for Instagram, several pins for Pinterest. That all comes from one piece of content. So you've done the groundwork, so to speak.
Okay. And just from, I guess, you're still setting the stage. You still have to get more people to see it. I mean, you can have it on Pinterest, you can have it on LinkedIn, you can have it on YouTube, but if no one sees it, it's like it doesn't exist. That was my next point, but go ahead. Yeah, so go ahead.
Okay. So once you have all of those content assets, the next stage is working out how you will amplify that content, how you will make sure you get as many eyeballs on the content as possible. And one of the things I've found is that sometimes it doesn't necessarily help to try and be on every channel all at once, because it can be a bit difficult. But start looking at, where are your ideal customers hanging out? What medium of content do they really, really enjoy? Is it video? Is it written post? Is it Instagram? And start there. So are you going to promote your post regularly on Facebook? Are you going to schedule it in something like Hootsuite so that you don't have to keep going back to it? Have you linked to other people within your content, which is definitely something that everybody should be doing, like linking to other people to really enhance and make your content better. Next, you want to go and reach out to all of those people, like, hey, I included you in your content. It helped make mine a much more well-rounded, informational piece of content for my customers, and I just wanted to share that with you, because I found that when you make other people look really good within your content, often they will share it because you've made them look good, and they'll share it with their audience, which is, we're able to tap into their audience just by shining the light on them. So you want to tap into the audiences of those people who you've linked to. In terms of link building, and this is always kind of touchy. I don't necessarily advocate that you're always asking people to do something for you. I think often just sharing with them that you are really excited about what they're doing and that you've included them within your content tends to have a lot better results than you necessarily asking them to link to you or asking them to share your content, because they kind of do it as a natural reciprocity. So that's with your content. In terms of your videos, it can be kind of difficult sometimes to get as much eyeballs on your videos if you're not very clear about optimizing it at the beginning. So thinking about your headlines, your SEO, your content, how you're structuring the video on YouTube, like, is it going to start getting as much natural eyeballs as possible? But at the same time, you can still take that content and share it on your mailing list. Have you included a link to your latest video when you're mailing your mailing list and your newsletter? So you've got to get really creative about what you do to amplify your content and very consistent with it, but realize that you're not an island and that you can actually, if you're not sneaky, but if you're clever, you can work with other people to help amplify your content.
Okay, so I guess we've covered creating the content, we've covered promoting the content, but the whole goal was to get more sales and more customers. Yes. So where is the big ask? So now that you've answered their questions, you've proved to them that you're there to help them, how do you ask for the sale? How do you ask for the conversion?
Okay, so this is the part that I really love. Depending on the tools that you use, I'm going to be speaking about Shopify specifically because that is the e-commerce platform that I use myself and that most of my clients use. Now, Shopify have got a little widget within their dashboard called the buy button. And this is a little bit of JavaScript or jQuery that actually can put your buy buttons directly within your content. And this is why I call it authority e-commerce content, because you don't always have to even drive your customer back over to your actual e-commerce store. That sale, if the content is well-rounded enough, well-written enough, if you've already built up that trust, that authority, that connection with your audience, you can actually make your sale directly within your content. But here's the thing, even if that sale isn't made at that, immediately, with things like your Facebook pixel and other tracking pixel, you can actually see, wow, like the bounce rate on this page is incredibly low. People are really highly engaged. And you can actually see what of your product they have been exposed to within that content and use that within your retargeting. Because if someone spent 4 to 5 minutes reading a really in-depth article, if they've commented, if they've liked, if they've shared, you've got a tiny bit of mind share with that potential customer at that point, that when your adverts, when your product, when your content kind of starts following them around the web, they've had a really positive experience with you. They're already engaged and connected with your brand. And at the point when they're ready to make a sale, who are they going to think of? They're going to think of you. So in terms of using your content, not just to drive people over to the actual e-commerce platform where they, like add to cart, etc., you can actually make all of your content a cart.
Repeat that. You said you can make it a what?
You can make your content a cart. So with this Shopify buy button, it's not necessary for you to take your visitor, your reader off of the content and into your shop, you can actually make that sell directly within your content.
Okay. Thank you for being on the podcast, Stacey. I know that you are offering the listeners a free, I don't know, it's a strategy session. Let me stop myself. It's not free. You're going to offer them a website and content audit and a content strategy session. So how can they sign up for that?
Okay, so I actually didn't create a specific landing page. That's, I should have done that actually. But if you come over to www.brazenprofitlab.com or you visit me at stacey@brazenprofitlab.com, what I want to offer specifically to your podcast listeners is for the first 10 people that get involved, I will happily give you a free website review. If you are finding that when we audit your website and we audit your content, you're going to actually see all of the gaps, all of the big, what I call money gaps within your business. And at that point, if you want to move forward, we can sit down and look at planning out your content strategy for the next quarter, the next 6 months, but not in a slapdash, let's throw up some blog posts, but let's get clear on what the keywords are, how this content will speak to your customer at different places in that journey, how you'll repurpose that content, and how you'll use that content as an asset to actually sell your products. So if any of your readers or listeners, should I say, are interested in that, you can find me over at stacey@brazenprofitlab.com.
Okay. Thanks again, Stacey, for being on the podcast.
Not a problem. Thank you for having me, Robert. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for listening to the eCommerce Marketing Podcast. Join the eCommerce Marketing Podcast Facebook group to learn, connect, collaborate, and grow with other e-commerce marketers at getosi.com/FB. Subscribe to us on iTunes by searching for eCommerce Marketing Podcast, and please leave a rating and a review. Thank you for listening. See you next time.